Eleanor Trach owns and manages the nursing home. Pensions have stopped coming through and relatives can't pay their fees, so she's using her own savings to keep the place open. But she's running out of money and supplies. And sometimes it's all too much. I'm afraid, so afraid, she says. How will we survive? I was at the city morgue. I watched as they brought in our young people. It was terrifying. They're somebody's children, grandchildren, or husband. And more people are arriving all the time. Eleanor won't turn them away. This man is from Petrovsky, a suburb of Donetsk, where Ukrainians are battling pro-Russian separatists. As Ukrainian forces close in on Donetsk, the fighting is getting closer to this home. People here describe hearing the sounds of shelling and the walls and windows shaking. These are some of the most vulnerable victims of this conflict because they cannot be moved to safety. It is hard to offer words of comfort to some. This woman says she worked hard all her life laying roads. Now she fears dying alone. She doesn't know where her daughter is. Many here were children during the Second World War. They sing songs from the Soviet era about soldiers saying goodbye to their city before going off to fight. It helps them to forget these troubled times as war surrounds them once again. Nazanin Moshiri, Al Jazeera, Donetsk.
10 years ago, NASA launched an ambitious mission to explore the mysteries of Mercury. The spacecraft Messenger is now orbiting less than 100 kilometers above the planet and sending out information way beyond initial expectations. Tom Ackerman reports.
It took Messenger more than 6 years to journey close enough to enter orbit around Mercury, almost 58 million kilometers from Earth. The scientists who designed and built it at the Johns Hopkins Advanced Physics Laboratory figured they could send back at most 2,000 images of a planet that's too close to the blinding sun for telescopes to observe. Now, after receiving 10 times that number of pictures, they have a wealth of data about Mercury, where temperatures range from 450 down to minus 150 degrees Celsius. On this globe, they've mapped the topography of the planet with new information sent back by Messenger as recently as just a few months ago. Messenger has produced conclusive evidence that inside Mercury's North Pole craters lie deposits of water ice, an encouraging finding to those who dream of making human settlement in deep space an eventual reality.
This is saying to us that one of the processes that takes place in our solar system can trap water and have it there if we ever get there.
The facts learned about the properties on, below, and above Mercury's surface are small pieces of a grand solar system puzzle that the scientists want to solve.
And there's a big difference and a progression in how these planets look, what the composition is. And we're trying to understand how it all makes one consistent picture of the formation and evolution of the solar system.
Messenger is projected to lose orbit and finally crash into the planet sometime next April. It will take another year for its data to be analyzed. But in the coming decade, the European Space Agency plans to launch 2 more orbiters to carry on the mission of uncovering Mercury's mysteries. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera, Laurel, Maryland.
Reminder of the top stories on Al Jazeera. 10 people have been killed and more than 30 others injured in an Israeli airstrike near a UN school in Gaza. It's the second attack to hit a United Nations shelter in less than a week. At least 1,830 Palestinians have died in the conflict. 64 Israeli soldiers have died and 3 civilians. The UN says a humanitarian disaster is unfolding with hospitals and clinics in desperate need of supplies.
The strangulation of Gaza continues. It's getting worse. We get hundreds of patients every day. We urgently need stronger antibiotics. We need blood coagulants. We need basics like surgical gloves, tubes to aid patients' breathing.
Rival factions in Libya are still fighting for control of the airport in the capital Tripoli. The government says more than 20 people have been killed in the latest clashes between the Misrata and Zintan-based armed groups. The skies above the capital show the signs of the fighting. Smoke still rising from a fuel depot next to the airport more than 24 hours after it was hit by rocket fire again. West Africa is fighting to contain the Ebola epidemic by setting up a cross-border isolation zone. More than 720 people have died in the outbreak of the virus since it started in March. In China, at least 175 people have died and more than 1,400 are injured after a 6.3 magnitude earthquake hit the country's Yunnan province on Sunday. The quake toppled and cracked many old buildings and residential homes. Authorities are sending aid to the region, where heavy rain forecast for the coming days will add to difficulties. And more than 100 people are missing and 9 dead after a landslide struck a town in the northeast of Nepal. Nepal's army has been using explosions to clear rocks and mud that have buried dozens of homes. Authorities say there's little hope of finding missing people alive. The landslide was triggered by heavy monsoon rains that affect the region each year from mid-June through September. In Italy, 4 people have been killed in floods caused by severe thunderstorms. A wall of water and mud swept into Refrontolo, 60 kilometres north of Venice. Coming up next, it's Inside Story. We'll have a full hour of news for you in about half an hour. Bye for now.